Afternoon session 12 p.m.
The court said, "Please be seated and please have the jurors brought in."
Jury present.
The court said, "Please be seated. Remember, Ms. Lee, that you're still under oath. You are still under oath. Go ahead."
By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Lee, when we stopped for the break, we were discussing the protests of the bankruptcy trustee. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Ms. Loftus, can we show the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit 6194? Ms. Lee, is this an image from one of the broadcasts you watched?
Yes. 6194.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Government offers Government Exhibit."
The court said, "Any objection?"
Ms. Strofa said, "No objection, Your Honor."
The court said, "It is admitted."
Government's Exhibit 6194 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Could we publish, please?"
By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Lee, I want to focus you on the top left. Mr. Ferguson said, "And Ms. Loftus, if we could zoom in on the top left poster, please." Ms. Lee, can you read the text on that poster?
Take down the CCP. Luque Despens. CCP's running dog.
And just to remind us, who is Luque Despens?
He is the trustee from Miles Gua's bankruptcy case.
What's your understanding of what CCP's running dog means?
It's CCP's party, controlled by the CCP, work for CCP.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Ms. Loftus, we can zoom out. And zoom in on the top middle. Ms. Lee, do you know who Neil A. Torpy is?"
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, "You could zoom out. And then on the far right top. Ms. Lee, do you know who's pictured here?
No.
Are you able to read the text on that poster?
Supporters of genocide. CCP's running dog. Paul Hastings.
What's Paul Hastings?
This lawyer, the legal firm for Miles Gua's bankruptcy case.
Is that where Mr. Despens works?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, "If we could zoom out." Now, Ms. Lee, was the trustee protested at one location or more than one location?
More than one location.
This is one. Where else was the trustee protested?
Ms. Strofa said, "Objection, Your Honor."
The court said, "Was there another location?"
The witness said his house.
The court said, "Overruled."
Was anyone related to the trustee also protested?
Yes.
Who?
His wife.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Ms. Loftus, we can take this down for now." And in addition to the trustee and his wife, were there protests of anyone else involved in Miles Gua's bankruptcy?
Yes, the biggest creditor named, the company name is Pax.
Can you spell that, please, Ms. Lee?
PX.
And is Pax a person or a company?
A company's name.
What kind of company?
It's a fund.
I'm sorry?
It's a, like investment fund.
What was Pax's role in Miles Gua's bankruptcy?
Ms. Strofa said, "Objection."
The court said, "Would you step up, please?"
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
The court said, "Does the witness have first-hand knowledge of the bankruptcy proceedings?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "Yes. She followed it, and I just wanted to talk about it. I'm happy to rephrase and ask, what's your understanding of Pax's role in the bankruptcy?"
Mr. Kumraju said, "Sorry. When you say she followed it, you mean like she read about it online?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "Correct."
Mr. Kumraju said, "Isn't that all based on hearsay?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "Well, it's Miles Gua talking about it."
The court said, "So you can ask what he said about it."
Continued on next page. In open court. By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Lee, did Miles Gua talk about his bankruptcy in broadcasts?
Yes.
Did you watch those broadcasts?
Yes.
What's your understanding from watching those broadcasts of Pax's role in Miles Gua's bankruptcy?
Ms. Strofa said, "Objection. We just."
The court said, "Sustained."
Ms. Strofa said, "Thank you."
The court said. So the question should be whether Mr. Gov't said something about Pax.
What did Mr. Gov't say Pax's role was in his bankruptcy?
Its biggest creditor.
Ms. Strofa said, I'll move to strike, Your Honor. That's non-responsive.
The court said. Overruled. Go ahead.
Who at Pax was protested, Ms. Lee?
The director of the Pax, Shang Wenjian.
Could you spell that name, please?
Sjian, Shang, Wenjian, Wenjan.
Was anyone else associated with Pax protested?
Yes.
Who?
Shang Wenjian's daughter and son.
And were his children in school or out of school at that time?
The daughter is in university.
And why were Pax and its chairman's children protested with, I'm sorry? Go ahead.
Because Miles Gov't said that Shang Wenjian is CCP spy.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could publish again Government Exhibit 6194. If we could blow up the bottom left. Ms. Lee, what's the text on this poster?
Extortionist appointed by DOJ.
What, if anything, did Gov't say about the DOJ around this time?
DOJ's been weaponized by the CCP, infiltrated by CCP.
At the time, did you believe that?
Yes.
Did there come a time when you received a subpoena from the bankruptcy trustee?
Yes.
Around when was that?
Around May of 2022.
What, if any, conversations did you have with Miles Gov't about that subpoena?
Miles Gov't said we should throw it in the rubbish bin.
Throw what in the rubbish bin?
Throw the subpoena from trustee, throw the subpoena from trustee.
From the bankruptcy trustee?
Yes.
And after Miles Gov't said you should throw the subpoena in the rubbish bin, what did you do?
I throw it away.
Why did you do that?
Because that time I believed Miles Gov't said Luke Despins is CCP spy.
Mr. Ferguson said, you can take that down, Ms. Loftus. Ms. Lee, are you still a follower of Miles Gov't?
No. I left.
Was there one thing or more than one thing that led to you no longer following Miles Gov't?
Ms. Strofa said, Objection.
The court said, Sustained. What led you to?
Ms. Lee, what was the first thing that led you to stop following Miles Gov't?
Ms. Strofa said, Objection. It assumes facts not in evidence.
The court said, Just what led you to? Then you can say, was there anything else?
What led you to have doubts about Miles Gov't?
15th of March 2023, Miles Gov't and Yvette Wong were arrested.
After they were arrested, did you leave the movement completely?
No.
Why not?
Because that time I still believed.
Still believed what?
Miles Gov't.
Ms. Lee, prior to Miles Govt's arrest, what, if any, instructions did you receive regarding your phones from Miles Gov't?
We should delete.
Ms. Strofa said, Objection as to time frame. From 2017 to 2023? Is there a time frame at all?
The court said, Add a time frame.
Around when did you get these instructions about your phone?
2022.
What did Gov't tell you to do about your phones?
To delete the information, change the numbers. Delete information, change numbers.
What did he say?
Because CCP can hack us, our phone.
And did Gov't tell you this himself or through an intermediary?
To myself.
And where did he say that?
Where?
What?
In the WhatsApp chat.
Did he explain why he wanted you to delete the information from your phones?
Because CCP is hacking my phone.
At the time, did you believe that was the reason why?
Yes.
Do you still believe that's why he asked you to do that?
Now I don't believe.
Now, Ms. Lee, after Govt's arrest, what, if anything, were you told to do with your phones after Govt's arrest?
Yes.
Ms. Strofa said, Objection. By whom?
Were you told to do anything by an alliance member?
Yes.
Who?
Brother Long Island Chang Dao.
What did Chang Dao tell you to do?
Chang Dao said, next week, FBI going to arrest us, you need to delete all the information.
Did you delete information?
I delete most of them and I keep some direct message with Miles Gov't.
Were you worried about being arrested?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection.
The court said, did you have any concerns? That's the question.
Did you have any concerns about being arrested?
Yes.
Why were you concerned about being arrested?
Because the DOJ being infiltrated by CCP, so they use FBI to arrest us.
At the time, did you believe that?
Yes.
Do you still believe that today?
No.
Ms. Lee, after Miles Gov's arrest, what was the next thing, if any, that caused you to have doubts?
On the Mawa Mansion.
When you say Mawa Mansion, what are you referring to?
There's a property Miles Gov't bought for secret base for new federal state of China.
And who said Miles Gov't bought that property as a secret base for the NFSC?
Brother Long Island Chang Dao.
Did he say that before Miles Gov's arrest or after Miles Gov's arrest?
After.
What was, and Ms. Lee, where did he say that?
In the broadcast.
Chang Dao did?
Yeah.
Did you watch that broadcast?
Yes.
What was your reaction to hearing Miles Gov't bought this Mawa property as a secret base for the NFSC?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection. That is not the testimony. The testimony was that Long Island David said that.
The court said, sustained.
What was your reaction to Chang Dao saying that Miles Gov't bought the property as a secret NFSC base?
I have doubts because I never heard about it.
When did you first hear about this secret base?
From the document, the government document.
All right. Ms. Loftus, and I'm sorry. When did you hear Chang Dao first say secret base?
In March 2023, in Chang Dao's broadcast.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Ms. Loftus. If we could show the witness just side by side what's marked as Government Exhibits 628 and 29. Ms. Lee, what are these exhibits?
This Miles Gov's voice message. He asked me to translate and send it to his lawyer in end of 2021.
Mr. Ferguson said, government offers Government Exhibits 628 and 629.
The court said, no objection?
Ms. Shrofa said, no, Your Honor, no objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibits 628 and 629 received in evidence.
Ms. Lee, as a general matter. What was he asking you? What was the subject of what he was asking you to translate?
So translate to his lawyer, his family fund going to buy a property and there's a price and some conditions. So they want to finish this purchase transaction.
Mr. Ferguson said, and I guess maybe we can just pull up the English, GX 629. All right. And Ms. Lee, and just to be clear on what this is. Where did the words that are written on this page, where did those words come from?
From Miles Gov's voice message.
And then did you translate that into English?
Yes.
Okay. Now, and after you translated it, what did you do with it?
I sent back to Miles Gov't.
All right. So now looking at the exhibit, at the top it says, Dear Anren. Who did you understand Anren to be?
Anren Mitchell is one of Miles Gov's lawyer.
And I'll go ahead and read the text. I have just informed my family members about the property today. And also told them that the owner can reduce the price from $33 million to $28 million. Many of them know about this house and are very interested in buying it as an investment for the fund where we can host our family to live there. Or sometimes we may also convert it to host our club members. I'll keep going. I want to reiterate the following key points about this offer. The family fund offering the final price is $26 million to close this deal ASAP. ASAP, with the fund. Please contact William, and use that fund to buy this. You can make a one-time payment. Sign the contract as soon as possible. Ms. Lee, when you received and translated this message from Miles Gov't, who did you understand would use this property?
Miles Gov's family.
Why was that your understanding?
Because the family member agreed to buy this property and use his family fund, the money from the family fund.
When he said, where it says, where we can host our family to live there, what did you understand that to mean?
So their family members can live there.
And when he said, sometimes we may also convert it to host our club members, what did you understand that to mean?
So G Club's members can use it sometimes.
Did you expect to be able to go to this property?
No.
Why not?
Because it's his family house.
Focusing on the second paragraph, about how the family fund offering the final price is $26 million. What was your understanding of where the money to buy this property was coming from, according to this?
From his family fund.
What was your understanding of what Gw's family fund was?
It's one of his entity.
And what, if anything, did Gwa say about his family fund?
His family fund have a lot of money.
By the way, Ms. Lee, did Gwa ever discuss a red Lamborghini in the broadcasts?
Yes.
What did he say about how that red Lamborghini was paid for?
No.
Sorry. What, if anything, did he say about how that Lamborghini was paid for?
Paid by family fund. His family fund reward him.
Reward him with what?
Reward him for his hard working.
And what did they give him as a reward?
That Lamborghini car.
Ms. Lee, this has a reference to William. What's your understanding of who William is?
William is William J.
Ms. Lee, did you think the money to buy this property was coming from G Clubs?
No.
Did you think the money to buy this property was Alliance money?
No.
Did you think it was investor money?
No.
What, if anything, did Gwa tell you about using supporter money to buy this property?
Never use supporters' money buy anything, even a meal.
If you had known that this property was being bought with investor money, would you have facilitated investments by your farm members?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, Your Honor."
No.
Ms. Shrofa said, "I move to strike, and I'm happy to have a sidebar on this matter."
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
If you had known, Ms. Lee, that this property was being purchased with investor money, would you have facilitated?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Your Honor, the question assumes facts that are not in evidence."
The court said, I've overruled the objection.
Ms. Lee, if you had known that this property was being purchased with investor money, would you have facilitated investments by your farm members?
No.
Why not?
Because our investment is for taking down the CCP, not for his family members or for his personal luxury life. No.
Ms. Lee, does buying a multi-million-dollar house, $26 million house, in your view, help fight the CCP?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, Your Honor."
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
No.
Does buying a red Lamborghini, in your view, help fight the CCP?
No.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Same objection."
The court said, overruled.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, let's go to the next page, please. Actually, I'm sorry, Ms. Loftus. If you could scroll up just slightly. It says, as this is a protected property, the owner is now required to confirm the following. 1. This house cannot have any more restrictions on how to living or using. 2. Ensure that all information about this house on the market is true. And then, 3. Make sure that the house has never had a cemetery or burial site in its history, and has never been any clash of cultures, for example, being haunted, burned or unlucky.
By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Lee, did Gwa say anything to you about the property being haunted?
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, let's go to page 3, please. All right. And I'll start reading paragraph 5. We hope that the current owner, this gentleman, will stay in close contact with us for the next 2 years. And the fund will put in $3 million to $5 million in renovation. And he will be in charge and responsible for the approval of the renovation projects. subject to our budget approval. And then there's subpoints. We are planning to convert an open-air outdoor pavilion on the upper side of the courtyard into a new pavilion, and he will help us to get permit from the government. B. We will add a lot of outdoor building lighting surrounding all buildings and courtyards, including the deep cleaning of the whole building again. And we can scroll down. And the last sentence there says, of course, the cost and expenses are all on us. C. The lighting inside this house is so terrible. We will add 24 to 36 wall lamps. Skipping to D. We will move all these furniture with this property currently to the rooms on the 3rd floor and the 2nd floor. The furniture that the whole family fund likes in the future will be rearranged to the hall on the 1st floor and the vacant rooms on the 2nd floor. After we buy these furniture, we hope he can help us to arrange them in. For the outdoor garden, in addition to adding lighting, we need all the fountains to be in operation 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Planting trees and in-depth transformation of the whole garden. Skipping to F. The family fund now has a budget of $3 million to $5 million for all renovations. These renovation projects also include the kitchen on the 1st floor. The kitchen may be a whole kitchen renovation, and I hope he can help to complete it. Last one is the transformation of the whole garden, more trees, more plants. And we can scroll up slightly, Ms. Loftus.
By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Lee, what was your understanding of where the money for these renovations of this property was coming from?
From his family fund.
Did you think these renovations would be paid for with G Club's money?
No.
Did you think they would be paid for with supporter money?
No.
Did you think they would be paid for with investor money?
No.
All right. Let's go down to the next page. Number 6. The last and most serious thing is that he and the agent must sign to ensure that they must always keep a legal commitment to this transaction. Never disclose any information to any second party or third party, and keep it absolutely confidential, including the right to judicial protection that they cannot disclose any information about this deal even when testifying in court. Ms. Lee, that says they can't disclose any information about this. Why do you think this was disclosed to you?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection.
Because
The court said you may answer.
Miles will trust me and he wants me to translate it.
Had he shared with you other things that were secret?
Yeah, everything he communicate with me is secret.
Had you kept all those things secret?
Yes.
What, if anything, did Gw't say to you about this property being a secret NFSC base?
No, never.
What did you understand this property was?
It's his family property.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, we can take it down. Thank you. Now, Ms. Lee, after Miles Gw's arrest, after hearing Chang Dao say the Mawa property was a secret base, what was the next thing, if any, that caused you to have doubts?
The HCHK Ventures.
What is the full name of that company?
Holy City Hong Kong Ventures.
And where was it based?
In BVI.
What position, if any, if I call it HCHK BVI, will you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And what position, if any, did you hold at HCHK BVI?
I'm one of the director.
Who else, if anyone, was a director?
Yvette Wang.
When did you become a director of HCHK BVI?
July 2022.
Who, if anyone, had asked you to become a director?
Miles Gwa.
What did Gwa tell you?
He told me we're going to set up a new rule of law foundation in BVI and Yvette Wang will contact me for details.
Rule of Law Foundation, is that where you were already a director?
Yes.
And after Gwa told you that, what did you do?
Yvette Wang contacted me.
And what did Yvette Wang tell you?
So we prepared for talk to the BVI lawyer, how and why we need to set up the new rule of law foundation in BVI.
And what, if any, reasons were you told for setting up a new rule of law foundation in BVI?
First is we want to set up more branches in different countries and we want to accept HDO donation.
And why did you have to set something up in BVI to accept HDO donation?
Because Himalaya Exchange is not available in US.
And did you become a director of HCHKBVI?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could show the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit 687. Ms. Lee, what is this document?
This document is appointing me as a director of this company. 687.
Mr. Ferguson said, Government offers Government Exhibit.
Ms. Shrofa said, "No objection, Your Honor."
The court said, "It is admitted."
Government's Exhibit 687 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, Can we please publish, Ms. Loftus? And Ms. Loftus, if we could maybe enlarge the text. We don't need the footnotes.
By Mr. Ferguson.
All right. Ms. Lee, the date, what's the date of this document?
20th of July 2022.
And how long after your conversations with Gov't and Yvette did you sign this?
2 months later.
Did you have any conversations before signing this document?
Yes, I sent.
What? I'm sorry.
Yes, I sent a message to confirm with Miles Gov't should I sign this. He said yes.
And was that with an intermediary or with Miles Gov't directly?
Directly.
Ms. Lee, after you signed this document to become a director of HCHKBVI, what was your involvement with the entity after that, in the next several months?
Nothing.
Did Miles Gov't talk to you about the new rule of law after that?
No.
Did Yvette Wang talk to you about the new rule of law after that?
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, You can take it down, Ms. Loftus. Did there come a time when you discussed HCHKBVI with Yvette Wang, again?
Yes. So.
Well, Ms. Lee, first, when did you discuss it with her again, what month or year?
April 2023.
And was that in person or on the phone?
On the phone.
Who was on that call?
Yvette Wang and brother Long Island Chung Dao.
What did Yvette say to you?
Yvette Wang said do her a favor, asked me to do her a favor.
What was the favor?
To sign all the documents, yeah.
And what did you understand her request to be?
To sign all the documents related to HCHKBVI.
And Ms. Lee, was this conversation before or after Yvette Wang's arrest?
After.
After this call with Yvette Wang and Chang Dao, what happened next?
One lawyer called me, asked me to sign some document, some sort, document is coming to my email.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, can we show the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit 6101? Is this the email, Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, Government offers Government Exhibit 6101.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Your Honor, may I just have 1 second?"
The court said yes.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Thank you. No objection, Your Honor."
The court said, "It is admitted."
Government's Exhibit 6101 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, Thank you. Could we please publish, Ms. Loftus? Thank you. Ms. Loftus. If we could first blow up the bottom half, the bottom email.
By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Lee, focusing you on the top right, what's the date of this email?
11th of April 2023.
And I'll read Are you a participant on this email chain?
Yes.
I'll read the text and the body. It says Mulan. Who is Mulan, Ms. Lee?
It's me.
Can you kindly execute this as soon as you can? And it says, Thanks much. Mr. Ferguson said, if we could scroll up now to the top email. All right. This is the same day, Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Who is this email from?
Alex Lipman.
Who did Alex Lipman represent?
Yvette Wang.
I'll read the body. It says, Dear all. Please see attached Holy City HKBVI corporate resolution signed by Yvette and authorizing the appointment of the assignee and the hiring of Anthony S. And sorry. And it says Mulan, can you please sign right away also and circulate to this group? Thank you. Ms. Lee. What did you do after receiving this email?
So I signed the document that Lippman sent to me.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, can we show the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit 6102? Ms. Lee, is this the document you signed?
Yes. 6102.
Mr. Ferguson said, Government offers Government Exhibit.
Ms. Shrofa said, "We have no objection, Your Honor."
The court said, "It is admitted."
Government's Exhibit 6102 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, will you please publish? All right. And Ms. Loftus, if we could blow up the top half or so.
By Mr. Ferguson.
All right. Ms. Lee, do you see at the top it says? Written consent of the directors of corporation in lieu of a special meeting of Holy City Hong Kong Ventures Limited?
Yes.
And what's the date of this document listed underneath there?
10th of April 2023.
I'm going to read the bottom three resolutions there. Resolved, that the corporation owns 99.9999% of the shares of Lexington Property and Staffing Incorporated.
Lexington. Resolved, that the corporation owns 99.9999% of the shares of HCHK Technologies, Inc., HCHK Tech. Resolved, that the corporation owns 99.9999% of the shares of HCHK Property Management, Incorporated, HCHK Property. Ms. Lee, did you know what those entities were?
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, if you could zoom out, please. And if we could zoom on the second from the bottom resolution, please. And I'm going to read the second from bottom. It says, resolved, that Lexington, HCK Tech, and HCHK Property is hereby authorized to execute deeds of assignment for the benefit of creditors, the deed of assignment, to Brian W. Hoffmeister, ESQ, hereinafter the assignee, and it gives his address. Ms. Lee, did you know what assignment for the benefit of creditors was?
I don't know.
Did you know who Brian Hoffmeister was?
I don't know.
Did you ever speak with him?
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, if we can zoom out. And you can scroll down. We can zoom in on the signatures. Ms. Lee, if you didn't know those things, why did you sign this document?
Because this alliance asked me to sign and Yvette Wang told me to do her a favor.
After you signed this document in April 2024, Ms. Lee, what happened after that? Mr. Ferguson said, you can take it down.
Ms. Shrofa said, 2023. Objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Ferguson said, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My apologies. Just to clarify, when did you sign that document, approximately what month and year?
April 2023.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. And after you signed it, what happened after that?
So in June, the trustee Luke sent the document, sent a TRO to stop this transfer.
What was your understanding of that TRO?
It's temporary restriction order.
And what was your understanding of the purpose of that?
To stop this transfer, so I realized we shouldn't do this.
So Ms. Lee, you mentioned a transfer. When did you first learn about, we'll talk about the transfer. When did you first learn about the transfer?
In this document, Luke's document.
The TRO?
Yeah.
All right. And what did you learn this transfer was, from what to what?
From HCHK to G News.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could. Ms. Lee, when you signed the document you looked at. Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if you want to pull up GX 6102. Did you understand there would be any transfers of assets?
No. I thought that's closing down for the company.
And when you signed the documents, what was your understanding of what assets these entities had?
No assets, just closing down.
Mr. Ferguson said, you can take it down, Ms. Loftus. Now, Ms. Lee, after the trustee tried to stop this transfer, what, if anything, did an alliance member ask you to do?
Asked me to start a lawsuit to sue Luke, to stop Luke get this money.
Who asked you to sue the trustee?
Zhang Yongbing.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, can we please publish Government Exhibit 121? It's in evidence. And Ms. Lee, when Zhang Yongbing asked you to sue the trustee, how did you respond?
I said no. I said, I want to resign from the director. I don't want to sue Luke.
What happened after that, or withdrawn? Were you able to resign then?
No.
Why not?
Because the lawyer resigned before me, so we can't process.
And Ms. Lee, I'll ask you to keep your voice up, please.
The BVI lawyer resigned just before me, so no one process, so we need another new lawyer first.
Ultimately, Ms. Lee, were you able to resign?
Yes.
Approximately when were you able to resign from HCHK BVI?
About July 2023.
And after you resigned, what, if anything, were you asked to do?
They wanted me to sign false affidavit to the trustee court, the bankruptcy court.
Who asked you to sign a false affidavit?
Zhang Yongbing.
Who, if anyone, did Zhang Yongbing take direction from?
Ms. Strofa said, objection.
To your knowledge?
Ms. Strofa said, objection.
The court said if you know.
Who, if anyone, to your knowledge, Ms. Lee, did Zhang Yongbing take directions from?
Miles Gua.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, can we show the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit 666? Ms. Lee, what's this document?
This affidavit Zhang Yongbing wanted me to sign.
Mr. Ferguson said, the government offers Government Exhibit 6. And did he send it to you?
Yes. 666.
Mr. Ferguson said, government offers Government Exhibit.
The court said, no objection?
Ms. Strofa said, no, Your Honor.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit 666 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, please publish.
By Mr. Ferguson.
Now, Ms. Lee, before Zhang Yongbing sent you this affidavit, did he interview you about the affidavit?
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Ms. Loftus, I'll just read it. At the top, Ms. Lee. Do you see it says United States Bankruptcy Court District of Connecticut Bridgeport Division? You see that?
Yes.
And beneath that it says in Re, Ho-Wan Kwok, et al., debtors. Who's Ho-Wan Kwok?
Miles Gua.
And then beneath that, it says, Luke A. Despens, Chapter 11 Trustee for the estate of Ho-Wan Kwok. Plaintiff, v. HCHK Technologies Incorporated, HCHK Property Management Incorporated, Lexington Property and Staffing Incorporated. Holy City Hong Kong Ventures, Limited, Anthony D. Batista, Yvette Wang, and Brian W. Hoffmeister. Assignee for the benefit of the creditors. Do you see that, Ms. Lee? Do you see that?
Yes.
And to the right of that, do you see the date is September? The date on this is September 21st, 2023?
Yes.
All right. Now beneath that in bold center, it says, Declaration of Lan Mu, aka Ali. Is that you?
Yes.
Did you write this document?
No.
Who did?
Zhang Yongbing.
Mr. Ferguson said, okay. Ms. Loftus, if we can just scroll slightly. So in paragraph 2, it says actually, I'll start with paragraph 1 just slightly. In the second sentence, it says, I understand the obligations and offer the following under penalty of perjury. It says, I believe the following statements are true to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief. In paragraph 2, it says, I submit this affidavit in connection with the efforts by Holy City Hong Kong Ventures Limited, a BVI corporation, and its 3 wholly owned subsidiaries, HCHK Technologies, HCHK Property, and HCHK Lexington, to protect their interests in the above captioned adversary proceeding. And if we could scroll down. And it says, until September of this year, I served as a director of HCHKV. I had nominal ownership of HCHKV. Whereas Yvette Wan was the primary owner and director of HCHKV. Ms. Lee, is that accurate?
It's about July. I served it to July.
And aside from the month, is that generally accurate?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, "May I have a moment, Your Honor?" Okay. Paragraph 4 says that. I understand that there is some concern about HCHKV's delay in answering the legal proceedings in this court. The explanation is straightforward. I was worried about making any move as the minority and nominal director without more information in counsel. Was that true? Ms. Lee?
No.
Why not?
Because I get information, direction from Yvette Wan. To sign those documents.
If we'll skip down to paragraph 6. Since that time, I and other HCHKV principals, creditors, and counsel have had numerous discussions on how to best proceed, and more importantly, how to proceed with appropriate caution. This has taken considerable time. And it says, based on these discussions. In April 2023 I, and Ms. Lee, who do you understand I to be referring to here?
Myself.
Based on these discussions in April 2023, I authorized the assignment proceedings pending in New York Supreme Court concerning HCHKV Technologies and the related wind down of that business. I understand and believe that Mr. Anthony DiBattista authorized the ABC proceedings on behalf of HCHK Property and HCHK Lexington. Prior to the wind down, however, these HCHKV entities operated as viable businesses. Is this information a true affidavit from you?
No.
Why not?
I never have any meeting with them, and I don't know the document I signed is for this transfer. I thought it's just closing down that entities.
Did you know whether the HCHKV entities operated as viable businesses?
No.
The court said, "Are you answering that you did not know, or that they did not operate as viable businesses?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "If I may, Your Honor. Did you know one way or the other whether HCHKV entities operate as viable businesses?"
I don't know.
And I'll read paragraph 8. It says, meanwhile, I also came to learn that the corporate formalities in the BVI had become stale. So we also needed to make certain filings and reappoint agents of service to ensure that the corporate form was current. This also took some time. Is that true, Ms. Lee?
Yes.
And I'll keep reading with 9. Mr. Ferguson said, if we could scroll down, Ms. Loftus, and maybe enlarge it. I have come to learn and believe, however, that the assignee has to date failed to make the HCHKV entities creditors whole in the New York State court action, opting instead to surrender the HCHKV entities' assets to the U.S. trustee in this case as part of a separate agreement. And then there's a footnote. Footnote 2. Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could just zoom out and go to the footnote, please. All right. The footnote 2 says, it is undeniable that I and the people involved with HCHKV entities had and or have a supportive relationship with the worldwide political and social movement to re-establish freedom and democracy in China, the movement. It is also undeniable that much of the profit and assets of the HCHKV entities' businesses had historically been made available to assist the movement. Regardless, these entities were viable operating businesses, with the possible exception, upon information and belief, of HCHK Lexington, which I believe existed largely as a corporate shell. Is this accurate, Ms. Lee?
No, I don't know anything about that. Even I don't know the structure of this group.
Mr. Ferguson said, you can zoom out, Ms. Loftus. Ms. Lee, was the affidavit Zhang Yongbing asked you to sign true or false?
False.
Did you sign it?
No.
Why didn't you sign it?
Because I know we can't say lie to the court. That's the bottom line.
Ms. Lee, after you refused to sign, what, if anything, did Zhang Yongbing say to you to get you to sign?
He sent me a final notice to threaten me to sign it.
What was the threat?
The threat is, if we lose this case, we lost the money, Luke take over this money. I will be fully responsible for all this money.
How much money was involved?
38 million.
What did you understand him to say when he said you would be fully responsible for the 38 million?
I have to pay back 38 million.
How did you respond?
I said, no, I don't have 38 million. If they want me to pay, they can take my life.
What did you mean by that?
I don't have 38 million. If they wanted me to be responsible, they can use my life to pay it.
What did you mean by they could use your life to pay for it?
They can kill me.
Why did you say that?
Because I have no other solutions.
Were you harmed at all, Ms. Lee, physically?
No.
Did you think about harming yourself?
Yes.
Why didn't you do that?
Ms. Shrofa said, Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Because I have my 11-years-old daughter.
Mr. Ferguson said, we can take down the affidavit, Ms. Loftus. Ms. Lee, what effect, if any, did this incident of the false affidavit and the threat? What effect did that have on your doubts about Miles Gwa?
After this, I fully realized this is a scam.
After you realized it was a scam, what did you do next?
I tried to contact the U.S. government.
And before you did that, Ms. Lee, what, if anything, did you review?
The whole last 7 years.
What sorts of things did you review?
Everything. Miles Gwa's broadcasts and the document we signed.
And what did you find in your review?
I find this is a scam.
When you realized that, Ms. Lee, how did that feel when you realized that?
I feel very angry, desperate, I feel guilty, I feel regret, and I'm very depressed. And I thought about suicide.
You said, Ms. Lee, that you felt angry. Why did you feel angry?
We'd been cheated by Miles Gwa. He lied to us. But we so trust him, we trust him 100%, no doubt. No question.
You said you felt guilty too. Why did you feel guilty?
I feel guilty for my family because all these 7 years, I didn't look after my family.
What were you doing instead?
Ms. Shrofa said, Objection.
The court said, overruled.
I worked very hard for Miles Gwa and my G-Translator Group. All the members worked very hard for Miles Gwa.
Ms. Lee, did there come a time when you spoke with the bankruptcy trustee?
Yes.
And approximately when did you do that?
Around October 2023.
At a high level, what did you speak with the bankruptcy trustee about?
About the whole HCHK things.
Did there come a time when you contacted the FBI?
Yes.
Around when was that?
November 2023.
Why did you contact the FBI?
Because I want to report to U.S. government Miles Gwa cheated us, lied to us, and misleaded me.
How many times, Ms. Lee, have you met with the FBI and the prosecutors, roughly?
10 times. Around 10 times.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. And if you can, please try and keep your voice up, if you can.
Okay.
When you contacted the FBI, did you feel safe or unsafe?
Safe.
And after contacting the FBI or before?
After.
How did you feel before contacting the FBI?
I feel unsafe.
Why did you feel unsafe?
Because if I stop cooperating with Alliance, they will say I'm the CCP spy and a traitor and start bullying me. And I feared about this, and I feared about my family, my house.
Ms. Lee, were you ever arrested?
No.
Did you travel to the United States to testify voluntarily or involuntarily?
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, we covered all of this before, so I'm going to object as asked and answered.
The court said, this was asked and answered.
Ms. Lee, why are you here to testify today?
I come here to testify to tell how Miles Gwa cheated us, how Miles Gwa lied to us, how Miles Gwa misleading us.
Ms. Lee, in his broadcasts, what, if anything, did Miles Guo say about being targeted by the CCP?
He said his family members, his employees in China, targeted by CCP.
And what else, if anything, did he say about being targeted by the CCP?
And his assets been taken over by CCP.
Did he ever talk about hacking?
Yeah, his phone hacked by CCP.
And what about attempts to get him sent back to China?
Yes, CCP send out the officers to US and to try to persuade President Trump to send him back to China.
Ms. Lee, if it were true that Miles Guo was targeted by the CCP, how does that change your view of Miles Guo's movement?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, Your Honor."
The court said, "Overruled."
If it were true he was targeted by the CCP, how does that change your view of Miles Guo's movement?
No change.
If it were true he was targeted by the CCP, how does that change your view of his investment projects?
No change.
Why doesn't it change your view, Ms. Lee?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Your Honor, I object based on relevance."
The court said, "Overruled. You may answer."
Even being targeted by CCP doesn't mean you can scam people's money. I'm also being targeted by CCP. I won't cheat any people's money. That's wrong.
How were you targeted by the CCP, Ms. Lee?
My parents in China. The CCP police called them and asked them to tell me stop what I'm doing because my activities is threatened the national security. And they also called my parents and other relatives to try to find me, ask them if I'm back to China. How they contact me, and my parents tell me don't go back to China, they will arrest me, but I'm the only child.
Ms. Lee, after being targeted by the CCP, did you spend supporter money on yourself?
No.
Did you spend investor money on yourself?
No.
Why not?
Because that's not my money. It's investment money, supporters' money. And those monies should be used to fight against the CCP, not for myself.
Ms. Lee, by participating in Miles Guo's investment projects, did you get rich?
No.
In terms of dollars in and dollars out, did you make money or lose money?
Lose money.
About how much did you lose?
About around 20,000.
By participating in Miles Guo's movement, did you take down the CCP?
No.
What's been the result of, in your view? What's been the result of this movement and these investment projects?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection to the form of the question."
The court said, "Are you asking the result on her?"
Mr. Ferguson said, yes.
The court said, "Okay. Go ahead."
The result is the supporters not getting rich but getting poorer and that supporters feeling disappointed and will leave.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, Your Honor." The question is the result on her.
The court said, "So speak only for yourself."
Ms. Shrofa said, and I move to strike the first part of her answer.
I'm getting poorer and I will leave this movement. In the final. I also don't want to take part in any democracy activities because I don't know if it's another scam.
Mr. Ferguson said, "May I have a brief moment, Your Honor?"
The court said yes.
Ms. Lee, I want to take a step back to the start when you began watching Miles Guo's videos. Why did you start following Miles Guo?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Your Honor, we've been over this."
The court said, "She's already given her answer to this question."
Mr. Ferguson said, "I have just 3 more questions or so, Your Honor."
The court said, "Go ahead."
By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Lee, sitting here today, do you still believe in democracy in China?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection. He's been over this before."
The court said, "I don't believe that he's asked about democracy in China. Do you still believe in democracy in China?"
The witness said, yes.
Sitting here today, do you still trust Miles Guo?
Ms. Shrofa said, asked and answered, at least 10 times.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Not about today, Your Honor."
Ms. Shrofa said, "As opposed to yesterday?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "No, as opposed to when she was a follower."
The court said, "You may answer."
No.
Why not?
Ms. Shrofa said, I believe that's been asked and answered, but...
The court said, you may answer.
Because the whole movement is a scam. He cheated us, lied, everything. And misled us.
Mr. Ferguson said, no further questions.
The court said, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Remember that you're not allowed to discuss the case amongst yourselves. No reading, listening to, or watching anything about the case. Ma'am, you may step out. Don't discuss your testimony.
Jury not present.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, could we excuse the witness?
The court said, you may step out.
Witness not present. Recess. At the sidebar.
The court said, so there was a point, Mr. Ferguson, where you asked the witness, were you worried about being arrested? Ms. Schroff objected. I sustained and I said, did you have any concerns? That's the question. And then you say, did you have any concerns about being arrested?
Mr. Ferguson said, I'm sorry. I apologize, Your Honor. That was not my intention.
The court said, watch yourself.
Mr. Ferguson said, I'm sorry. Truly.
The court said, all right.
Continued on next page. In open court.
The court said, let's have the witness return, please. We can bring the jurors in, please.
Jury present.
The court said, please be seated. Cross-examination.
Ms. Shrofa said, thank you, Your Honor.
Cross-examination. By Ms. Shrofa.
Ms. Lee, you testified on direct, did you not, that you thought there was no other solution to your problem? Correct?
Yes.
And you thought the only solution to your problem was for you to kill yourself, correct?
Yes.
And it's fair to say, is it not, Ms. Lee, that you in fact did find another solution?
The solution is...
You found a solution, did you not? Your solution was to contact the bankruptcy lawyer, correct?
No, at this time I thought it's...
You have to keep your voice up cause I can't hear you.
At that time I thought about my life.
But after that you found a solution, right? You're here today, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, objection. The witness should be allowed to answer the question.
The court said, just pause so she can answer. The question is, yes, did you find another solution?
After I realized I can't suicide because my daughter.
That wasn't my question.
Mr. Ferguson said, excuse me, Your Honor. She's cutting her off.
Ms. Shrofa said, I move to strike.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
My question was, you found another solution, correct?
After I think about my daughter, I can't suicide, then I contact the U.S. government.
Correct. So you found a solution. The solution was to contact the U.S. government, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
Which U.S. government did you contact first?
Trustee.
Right. So you had all these thoughts, and then you found a solution. The solution was to contact the trustee, and that's the first step you took, correct?
Yes.
And you contacted the trustee, that's Luke Despens? You have to keep your voice up.
Yes.
And you contacted the trustee yourself, correct?
Yes.
And you spoke to the trustee, right?
Yes.
Did you speak by phone, or did you speak by some other method?
Online.
You spoke online. You sent him an email, is that right?
Online meeting.
You had an online meeting with him, correct?
Yes.
Did you use WebEx?
I don't know.
You don't know, or you don't remember?
I don't remember.
Who set up the meeting?
The trustee.
The trustee set up a meeting and you participated, correct?
Yes.
And you told him all of the facts that you had in your mind that you wanted to share, correct?
Yes.
And at the time you talked to the trustee, you knew that the trustee was representing an entity known as PAX. Is that correct?
No.
Who did you think the trustee represented?
U.S. government.
You thought that the trustee represented the United States government?
Yes.
Did he tell you that?
No.
Then there came a time after you contacted the bankruptcy trustee, you contacted the DOJ, correct?
Yes.
You contacted the FBI, correct?
Yes.
And then you contacted the U.S. Attorney's Office, correct? These prosecutors?
Yes.
And you did all that by yourself from Australia, correct?
Yes.
So let's start with that. How many times do you think you talked to these prosecutors?
About 10 times.
Well, let's see. Do you remember the first time was in November of 2023, November 1st? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And how was that meeting set up?
I meet with them in person.
So you met with them in person in Australia, correct?
Yes.
And then the next time you met with them was November 3rd of the same year. Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
You remember meeting with them in February 6th of 2024. Do you recall that?
I don't remember.
How about February 29th of 2024? Do you recall that?
I don't remember.
Do you recall February 29th, maybe, because that's the first time you met these prosecutors, Mr. Ferguson, Mr. Finkel, Ms. Murray, and Mr. Horton over there, the man with the beard?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
How about the March 1st interaction with them? Do you recall that?
I don't remember.
Do you recall sending the prosecutors documents as attachments, several documents one after another?
Yes.
And do you recall if that was on March 1st of 2024?
I don't remember.
How about March 7th? Do you remember a WebEx meeting with these prosecutors?
I don't remember.
How about March 15th sending emails to them, to Mr. Ferguson and Mr. Finkel, Ms. Murray and Mr. Horton? And then the FBI agent, do you recall that?
I don't remember.
How about March 18th, having a meeting with Mr. Ferguson? Do you recall that?
I don't remember.
How about March 21st of 2024? Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
March 25th with the FBI and AUSA Ferguson, the man who asked you questions today. Do you recall that?
I don't remember.
How about March 25th sending links and documents to the government? Do you recall that?
I don't remember.
How about March 29th? Do you recall that?
I don't remember.
How about April 11th, having a WebEx meeting with AUSA Ferguson and the FBI agent? Do you recall that?
I don't remember.
How about April 18th, 2024? Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
April 21st meeting with the FBI agents and sending emails to them. Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
How about April 23rd of 2024? You remember that?
I don't remember.
How about April 25th, 2024? Do you remember that? A WebEx meeting with Mr. Ferguson over here.
I don't remember.
How about April 28th? Do you recall that?
Mr. Ferguson said, "She's not saying what happened on April 28th, Your Honor." Objection.
The court said, "You're asking if she remembers a meeting with him on February 28th?
Ms. Schrofa said, "I'm happy to rephrase. Do you recall, Ms. Lee, on April 28th, 2024, emailing with the U.S. Attorney's Office, Mr. Ferguson right here and FBI, documents relating to certain issues that you were researching for the United States government?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "Your Honor, objection to the testimony." And also to clarify if she remembers the specific date or if she remembers having emailed with the government.
The court said, "My understanding is that she's asking whether she remembers on a given date that she emailed."
I remember I sent email, but I don't remember which date.
Do you remember on May 2nd, 2024, having a WebEx meeting with AUSA Ferguson, AUSA Murray, Finkel, and Horton? And by ASA I mean Assistant United States Attorneys who are at this table?
I only remember meeting with Ferguson.
You remember emailing with Mr. Ferguson on May 3rd, 2024?
I email, but I don't remember the date.
How about May 9th? Do you remember a phone call with these three prosecutors on May 9th?
I don't remember.
That's less than a month before.
I don't remember.
How about May 16th having a telephone call with Mr. Ferguson? Do you recall that phone call?
I don't remember.
How about your May 27th WebEx meeting with Mr. Ferguson, the man who questioned you today? Do you recall that?
We have meeting, but I don't remember the date.
How about the June 1st meeting? Do you recall that?
Yes.
The June 1st meeting was in person, correct?
Yes.
You met with Mr. Ferguson, correct?
Yes.
And you met with him in his office, correct?
Yes.
And after you met with him, actually, let me take that back. First, for how long did you meet with Mr. Ferguson on June?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
A few hours.
By few hours, do you mean 3 hours, 5 hours?
I don't remember.
But you remember meeting with Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
And when you met with him, he was taking notes of what you were saying, correct?
I don't remember.
You don't remember seeing him take notes?
I don't remember.
Do you remember the FBI taking notes?
I don't remember.
On June 1st, when you met with Mr. Ferguson, was it in this building or the other building across the street?
I don't remember.
On June 1st, when you met with Mr. Ferguson, did you meet with him before you were given a lawyer?
Yes.
So you met with him for a couple of hours before they got you a lawyer, correct?
Yes.
And on June 1st, these gentlemen and Ms. Murray got you a lawyer, right?
Yes.
And after you got yourself a lawyer, did you then go back and talk to Mr. Ferguson?
No.
Did you talk, well, okay. Did you talk to Mr. Ferguson on June 2nd?
Yes.
And on June 2nd, did you talk to him with your lawyer or without your lawyer or both?
Without lawyer.
You talked to him without a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
They'd given you a lawyer. But you just went and met with Mr. Ferguson without your lawyer being next to you, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
You met again with Mr. Ferguson on June 4th, correct?
Yes.
What did you do on June 3rd?
Meet with Mr. Ferguson.
You met again with Mr. Ferguson on June 3rd, correct?
Yes.
And then on June 4th, you went with him on 2 meetings or just one. Do you recall?
I don't remember.
And then again you met with him on June 5th, correct?
No.
You didn't meet with him yesterday, right, before you took the stand?
Yeah, before this trial, yes.
So you met with him in the morning, right, before you took the stand? That stand right there?
Yes.
That was June 5th, and today's June 6th, correct?
Yes.
Now, from all of this time, from November 1st of 2023 to June 5th or June 6th of 2024, you and I have never met. Correct?
Yes.
You and I have never emailed with each other, correct?
Yes.
You and I have had no phone calls, correct?
Yes.
Same goes for that gentleman sitting right here named Sid Kamraju. You've never talked to him, correct?
Yes.
You've never called him, correct?
Yes.
You never emailed with him, correct?
Yes.
Zero contact with him, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
And same thing with any of Mr. Gua's lawyers that you see in court today, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered at this point.
The court said, we've established that she has not had contact with the defense team.
Ms. Shrofa said, thank you, Your Honor. On June 4th, when you met with Mr. Ferguson, you went over a document with him, correct?
Yes.
And before you went over that document with him, I take that back. Mr. Ferguson gave you a document that you reviewed, correct?
When?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to the vagueness.
Ms. Shrofa said, it's on June 4th.
The court said, only with respect to June 4th. Okay.
Ms. Shrofa said, I apologize, Your Honor, I missed that.
The court said, you're referring to June 4th only at this time?
Ms. Shrofa said, yes.
The court said, go ahead.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, does the court have a document on the screen? Ms. Lee, are you having any trouble looking at the document? It's only for the witness, not for the jury.
No.
Can you see the document, Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Could you take a minute and review it, please?
Yes.
And if I could just show you the second page?
Yes.
And if I could show you the third page? Do you recall receiving this document on June 4th?
Yes.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, I ask that the document be introduced into evidence as Defense Exhibit 60504.
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, step up.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar,
The court said, "What's the problem?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "This was an initial NPA offer, Your Honor, that was sent to Ms. Lee's lawyer. I did not discuss this document with Ms. Lee or give it to her. I assume we're going to get to a privileged conversation. She wants to ask about this draft that was sent to her lawyer, in which Ms. Lee, I understand, discussed with her lawyer. There's a later version of the NPA which I then sent to Ms. Lee's lawyer, and that's the one that was signed. This is not the one she signed."
Ms. Shrofa said, "I have no intention of asking her any question at all that would even closely meander into the attorney-client privilege. I simply want to introduce the document into evidence because the scope of coverage increases. I have zero interest in asking her a single question about what her lawyer told her and what she told her lawyer."
The court said, "So why is it that you're looking to introduce the draft as opposed to the final version?"
Ms. Shrofa said, "2 reasons. The scope of the coverage increases."
The court said, "In the second version?"
Ms. Shrofa said, "Yes."
Mr. Ferguson said, "That's true. We're fine with that."
Mr. Kamraju said, "That's the reason, Your Honor."
The court said, "Just to show that she had a lawyer negotiating it?"
Ms. Shrofa said, "No, nothing about the lawyer."
Mr. Kamraju said, "Just that they made an offer of a non-prosecution agreement that covered a certain range of conduct. Her lawyer, 'cause I assumed they were not speaking to her directly, communicated with them and expanded that at the lawyer's request. It shows that they're negotiating and they increased the coverage."
The court said, "Which was my question just now, just to demonstrate that they negotiated?"
Ms. Shrofa said, "Yes."
The court said, "Does the second agreement encompass what is in the first agreement?"
Ms. Shrofa said, "And expands it quite nicely."
Mr. Ferguson said, "That's right. Yeah."
The court said, "So what's the problem?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "As long as they're not going to get into, I'm concerned that we might get into her discussion with her lawyer. But if she can ask the questions in a way they don't touch on that, if Ms. Shroff can do that, we'll be okay."
Mr. Kamraju said, "The witness or her lawyer can assert privilege if they think there's any question that touches on that."
The court said, "The lawyer is in the room?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "No, I don't believe so."
Ms. Shrofa said, "The lawyer also wasn't in any conversation. I'm not going to go there, Your Honor. I'm old enough to know not to go there. If I do, you can most certainly sua sponte sustain the objection. That's not my intention."
The court said, "Okay."
Continued on next page. In open court.
The court said, "Overruled."
Ms. Shrofa said, "Your Honor, may we publish it to the jury?"
The court said, "Any objection as far as authentication is concerned?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "No objection, Your Honor."
The court said, "It is admitted, and you may publish it to the jury."
Defendant's Exhibit 60504, received in evidence. By Ms. Shrofa.
Ms. Lee, if you take a look at the top portion, it says right below, if you could highlight for her. Please. It says by email, correct? And that document is dated June 2nd, correct?
Yes.
And you will note that your lawyer's name itself is misspelled, correct? Her name has 2 F's and they've called her Wall Wolf?
Mr. Ferguson said, "Objection to relevance."
The court said, "If you know how her name is spelled."
Ms. Shrofa said, "I'll withdraw." You recall reviewing this document, correct?
Yes.
And if I could just have you take a look at page 2 of that document. You recall reviewing this page and page 3, correct?
Yes.
And going back to page 1, if I could just have the first paragraph highlighted for you. It's fair to say, right, Ms. Lee, that you understood this agreement to be between you and the United States Attorney's Office, who are the prosecutors here, correct?
Yes.
And the document that you are looking at gives you coverage for certain entities, right?
Yes.
Rule of Law Foundation, yes?
Yes.
GTV, correct?
Yes.
G Clubs, correct?
Yes.
The Himalaya Exchange, correct?
Yes.
The Himalaya Global Alliance, correct?
Yes.
And then the new federal state of China, correct?
Yes.
Now, if I could have that taken down, and let me show you another document which is dated June 4th. If I could just have it shown only to the witness and not to the jury, please. Thank you. Do you recognize this document, Ms. Lee?
Yes.
And could I have the last page shown to the witness? Does it bear your signature?
Yes.
Ms. Schrofa said, I ask that it be moved into evidence, Your Honor.
Mr. Ferguson said, without objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Defendant's Exhibit 6-120 received in evidence. By Ms. Schrofa.
Now let's just stick to the first paragraph again, right? Now in this version added is Holy City Hong Kong Ventures, correct?
Yes.
G-Translators is added for you, correct?
Yes.
HA Group Party Limited, correct?
Yes.
TT Resources 1 Private Limited, correct?
Yes.
Archwood Fund, correct?
Yes.
By the way, is Archwood spelled correctly?
Yes.
GV Australia, correct?
Yes.
And then you have G Fashion, correct?
Yes.
What does GFNY stand for according to you?
Another G fashion company name.
And that's G Fashion New York, right?
Yes.
G Music, correct?
Yes.
Medical Supply, correct?
Yes.
Getter, correct?
Yes.
G Club Me, correct?
Yes.
Southern Star, correct?
Yes.
H Reserve?
Yes.
ACA Capital?
Yes.
ALFA Global Ventures?
Yes.
And the Hamilton Fund, correct?
Yes.
So this document that I'm showing you now is different from the first document I showed you a minute ago, correct?
Yes.
And you read both documents carefully, correct?
Yes.
And after you read the second document, you sign the second one and not the first one, correct?
Yes.
And when you signed this document, you went over it with Mr. Ferguson, correct? The second document now.
No.
Mr. Ferguson didn't review the document with you?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection, Your Honor. We're getting into the area I was concerned about.
The court said, overruled.
Ms. Schrofa said, he has a privilege with the witness?
The court said, did he review the document with you?
Mr. Ferguson said, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
No, with the lawyer.
You never discussed this document with Mr. Ferguson directly?
No.
And the document itself is on United States Attorney's letterhead, correct? If somebody could point that out for her, right?
Yes.
And then the signature is signed by the prosecutors on this table, right?
Yes.
Micah Ferguson, Ryan Finkel, Juliana Murray, and Justin Horton, these four, correct?
Yes.
And the person who signed it is Micah Ferguson, right?
Yes.
And this is an agreement between you and his office, right?
Yes.
And this agreement gives you what is called coverage, right? It is a promise by them that they won't prosecute you, correct?
If I provide everything truth.
We'll get to the truth part. Don't worry. They provide you coverage, right?
Yes.
I just want to make sure. The agreement is between you and the government, no one else?
Yes.
And they decide if you're telling the truth or not, correct?
No.
Really?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection, Your Honor.
The court said, overruled.
When you met with them,
I decide myself.
you decide yourself?
Yes.
So if you decide you're telling the truth and if they decide you are lying, all that matters is that you're telling the truth?
No.
So it matters what they think about what you are saying, correct?
No.
When you met with them in the proffer sessions each time they talked to you, they told you to tell them the truth, right?
No.
Okay. Do you recall testifying on direct and you were asked a question and you said, if you were to lie here, the government could tear up your non-prosecution agreement, correct?
Yes.
They're the ones who could tear it up, correct?
No.
Well, who else could tear it up? I can't tear it up, right?
The court said, don't testify.
Could I tear up your cooperation agreement?
No.
Could the judge tear up your cooperation agreement?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, It's not a proper question.
The only people who could tear up your cooperation agreement is Mr. Ferguson, the man who's standing up. Right?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
No,
You tell me who else can tear up your cooperation agreement?
I don't know.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, it's not a cooperation agreement.
Ms. Schrofa said, I apologize. The non-prosecution agreement. My apologies. You don't know who else could tear it up. Is that your testimony?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
I don't know.
The court said, overruled.
I don't know.
Ms. Schrofa said, if I could just have the witness look at page 2, and if I could just have the paragraph that says, it is understood that if the government. Could you highlight that for her? Could you take a minute and read that for me? You ready?
Yeah,
It is understood that if the government has determined that, it really should be Ms. Lee, has committed any crime after signing this agreement or has given false, incomplete, or misleading testimony, I'm just going to stop there for a minute.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, if Ms. Schroff could refer to her as Ms. Lee and Ms. Lai.
Ms. Schrofa said, Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee. The first sentence leads you to conclude, what about the word government? Who's the government in this sentence?
U.S. government.
And in your understanding of U.S. government in this line is Mr. Ferguson, right?
No,
Then who?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah, I don't know.
But it is the government that decides if you have committed any crimes after signing this agreement. Correct?
Yes,
And it is the government that decides if you give false testimony, correct?
no,
The court said, is there a question?
It is the government that decides if your testimony is complete or incomplete, correct?
I don't know.
It is the government who decides whether your testimony has been misleading or accurate, correct?
I don't know.
Okay, let's look at the next paragraph. The next paragraph tells you that the agreement does not bind any federal, state, or local prosecuting authority other than this office, correct?
Yes,
And this office is the office in the Southern District of New York, correct?
yes,
And then it says, the office will, however, bring the cooperation of Ms. Lee to the attention of other prosecuting offices if requested by you, correct?
yes,
And then it says in the last paragraph, with respect to this matter, the agreement supersedes all prior, if any, understandings, promises, and/or conditions between this office and you, correct?
yes,
So the agreement is between two of you, the U.S. Attorney's Office and you, right?
yes,
And then if you could scroll down, please, for her. This document was signed by you, correct?
yes,
And it was signed by a lawyer, correct?
yes,
And it was joined on June 4th, correct?
yes,
And after you signed this document, did you go back and meet with Mr. Ferguson?
I don't remember.
And as far as you're concerned, it is your understanding of this document, correct? That the U.S. Attorney's Office is not going to prosecute you, correct?
Unless I tell the truth.
But they're not going to prosecute you subject to whatever conditions that are in this agreement, right?
Yes,
And you put that agreement in place before you testified at trial here today, right? And yesterday?
yes,
Now, Ms. Lee, you testified on direct that you have spent a substantial amount of your life in Australia, correct?
yes,
And you have a degree in accounting, is that right?
yes.
And what was your undergraduate degree in, by the way?
International trade.
International trade. Was that at a university in China?
Yes,
Could you tell the jury, please, what your master's degree was in?
accounting.
And what courses did you take as a master's student in accounting?
Accounting course.
How long was your master's program?
About 2 years.
And which university did you take this 2-year program at?
In Australia.
Which university?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, objection to relevance.
The court said, overruled. You can say the name of the university you attended for your master's degree.
Macquarie.
And did you get any CPA licenses after you graduated from your master's program?
Yes,
What licenses did you get? And really, Ms. Lee, could you please keep your voice up for me?
CPA.
I could not hear that.
CPA.
And you worked as a chartered public accountant. That's a CPA, right?
Yes.
And to be a CPA in Australia, you have to abide by certain rules, correct?
Yes.
And you have to renew your licenses every year, correct?
Yes.
And you have to fill out forms to make sure your license is renewed, correct?
Yes.
And you did that, right?
Yes.
And you worked as an accountant, correct?
Yes.
Accounting work is work that requires care, correct?
Yes.
It requires accuracy, correct?
Yes.
It requires attention to detail, correct?
Yes.
And you had all of that while you were doing your job, right?
Yes.
And you worked at several accounting companies, correct?
Yes.
And, in fact, you work at one now, right? I don't need the name. But you work at an accounting company now, right?
Yes.
And as part and parcel of your work, you filled out tax forms for people, correct?
Yes.
And did you also do taxes for institutions or just individuals?
Both.
I cannot hear you.
Both.
And even now you do taxes for both individuals as well as institutions, correct?
Yes.
And especially for institutional taxes, these are complicated tax returns, correct?
No, they're the small business.
But they require consideration and care, right?
Yes.
And you were an accountant when you first started listening to broadcast of Miles Gov't, right?
Sorry. Can you say that again?
Sure. When you first started listening to broadcast by Miles Gov't, you were working as an accountant. Correct?
Yes.
And the first time you listened to a broadcast by Miles Gov't, was that in 2016 or 2017?
2017.
In 2017, correct?
Yes.
And you testified that the way you ran into a Miles Gov't broadcast is because a friend of yours had asked you to investigate the death of some child in China. Correct?
Yes.
And your friend chose you to investigate that, correct?
Yes.
She asked for your help, correct?
Yes.
And you agreed to help her, correct?
Yes.
And you investigated that issue carefully, correct?
Yes.
You wanted your friend to have accurate information, correct?
Yes.
You took steps to make sure you got accurate information, correct?
Yes.
And then you gave it to her, correct?
Yes.
And when you were doing all of that is when you first saw a broadcast by Mr. Gov't, correct?
Before.
Okay. You saw it before?
Yeah.
And that's when you started listening to the broadcast, correct?
No.
Okay. Did you start listening to the broadcast before you saw that?
Yes.
Can you tell us how?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, if we could just clarify the question on what is it?
Ms. Schrofa said, the broadcast.
Mr. Ferguson said, Which broadcast, Your Honor?
By Ms. Schrofa.
The very first broadcast, Ms. Lee?
VOA interview.
So the first time you saw Mr. Gov't was when he did the VOA interview. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
And let's talk about the VOA interview. Was that an interview that was streamed live? Do you remember?
Yes.
And did you actually watch it live, or did you watch a later rerun?
Live.
You watched it live from Australia, correct?
Yes.
And when you watched it live, you saw it was interrupted.
Yes, it been cut off.
It was cut off, correct?
Yes.
And after it was cut off, it did not pick back up, right?
Yes.
The interview was terminated, correct?
Yes.
The interviewer was a woman named Sasha Gong, correct?
Yes.
And you later learned, did you not, that Sasha Gong had been fired for interviewing Mr. Miles Gov't and broadcasted it on VOA?
Yes.
And you were not surprised by that because you knew that the CCP does things like that, correct?
That's Miles Gov't said.
That wasn't my question. My question was whether you know the CCP to do things like that?
I don't know.
Do you know if the CCP welcomes pro-democracy speeches?
Sorry.
You're familiar with the CCP, correct?
I'm not familiar.
You're not familiar with the CCP?
No.
So when you testified on direct about your thoughts of the CCP and them visiting people in China, that gave you no familiarity of what CCP is. That's your testimony?
That time, yeah, I don't familiar.
That time you were not familiar with what is the CCP?
Yeah,
What does the CCP stand for?
Chinese Communist Party.
It's not a democracy, right?
Yeah,
China is not a democracy, correct?
yes.
And it wasn't a democracy in 2014 or 2016 when you listened to Voice of America, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to form, Your Honor. She's asking compound questions.
The court said, it is a compound question.
In 2016, when you listened to the Voice of America interview, was China a democracy?
In 2017?
Uh-huh.
No.
So when you watched the Voice of America interview, you knew that it was possible that it was the CCP that interrupted that interview, correct?
I don't know.
In 2016, you had family in China, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection. She's misstating the year. The witness testified 2017.
The court said, are we talking about 2017 or 2016?
Ms. Shrofa said, I'm happy to ask about 2017. In 2017, you had family in China, correct?
Yes.
And in 2017, you would not have publicly spoken out against the CCP, correct?
Yes.
And in 2018, you wouldn't speak out publicly against the CCP, correct?
2018 after following Miles Guo, I started, since 2017. So after I follow Miles Guo, I started.
You started publicly speaking out against the CCP?
Yeah, on Twitter.
On Twitter?
Yeah.
When you spoke out against the CCP on Twitter, what name did you use?
Mulan TWHE.
That's not your name, right?
No.
So you didn't use your real name, correct?
Yeah.
You did not show your face, correct?
Yes.
You used a handle, correct?
Yes.
You made up a handle in the name of Mulan, correct?
Yes.
You chose the name Mulan, correct?
Yes.
You chose the name Mulan because Mulan represents a woman fighting as a man, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Guo didn't choose that name, correct?
Yes.
In fact, when you picked that name, you didn't even know Mr. Guo, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
No, I already know him.
So you picked the name Mulan, right?
Yes.
You went on Twitter, correct?
Yes.
And you posted as Mulan, correct?
Yes.
And that's not you publicly speaking out against the CCP, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection, asked and answered. We object to the badgering, Your Honor.
The court said, it's slightly different. You can answer that question.
Sorry. Can you repeat the question? Can you repeat it again?
When you posted on Twitter against the CCP, you did not use your real name, right?
Yes.
And you did not use your real name because you was scared that the CCP would have a reaction to that, correct?
Yes.
And you were scared of the CCP, correct?
Yes.
So you knew that the CCP could hurt you if you spoke out against the CCP, right?
Yes.
And logically someone else could be worried that there would be a reaction to them speaking out against the CCP?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, sustained as to what somebody else might be worried about.
So going back to the VOA interview. The interview was interrupted, right?
Yes.
That was the first time that you saw Miles Guo. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Correct.
I'm correct, right?
Yes.
That's the first time you saw it?
Yes.
And after you watched the interview, you researched Miles Guo is that right?
I didn't research. I followed him.
How did you find him?
On YouTube and Twitter.
Right. So you looked for him on YouTube, correct?
Yes.
And then you looked for him on Twitter, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Guo didn't call you up and say follow me on YouTube, correct?
He said in the broadcast.
But you hadn't seen a broadcast yet. You just said you went a Voice of America interview, and then you went to YouTube, and then you went to Twitter?
Yes.
So you looked for him, right?
Yeah, in YouTube. In YouTube video he said follow the Twitter, so I find the Twitter account.
Right. But you went to YouTube all on your own, right?
Yes.
And you learned at some point, did you not, that Mr. Gwa's YouTube account had been shut down, right?
Not shut down.
Mr. Gwa's YouTube account had never been shut down?
No, just no live broadcast.
I didn't understand that, Your Honor.
The function, so no live broadcast function, but the YouTube account is there.
So if Mr. Gwa wanted to live broadcast on YouTube, he couldn't do that, correct?
He can do at the beginning, and a few months later this function be shut down.
I really didn't get that.
The court said, you can read back the answer.
Record was read.
So at some point in 2017, Mr. Gwa could no longer live broadcast on YouTube, correct?
Yes.
And the Twitter account that he had was also shut down in 2017, correct?
I don't remember exactly which year.
You cannot remember what?
I cannot remember exactly which year.
But you knew at some point his Twitter account was also shut down, correct?
Yes.
And so where did you follow and look for the broadcast for Mr. Gwa?
Another social media platform.
What's that?
I don't remember the name. It's also very popular platform, and also another platform called Livestream.
Livestream?
Yeah.
Well, he was never on TikTok, right?
No.
So he wasn't on Instagram, correct?
Yeah, another one is Instagram.
Your testimony is Mr. Gwa was on Instagram?
Yes.
So you saw him on Instagram, correct? Did you follow him on Instagram?
Yes.
How many followers did he have on Instagram in 2017?
I don't remember.
How about 2018?
I don't remember.
2019?
I don't remember.
Do you know if in 2019 he even had an Instagram?
Yes, even now still have.
Even now he still has an Instagram account?
Yes.
And you still follow it even now, right? Because that's the only way you'd know?
I'm not following now.
Then how would you know it's still active? I'll move on. You testified also on direct, did you not? That you decided to bake a cake for Miles Gwa's birthday, correct?
Yes.
I want to make sure. At that time when you baked that cake, you did not know Miles Gwa personally, right?
What do you mean personal?
You never met him in a group chat, correct?
No.
I cannot hear you.
Not group chat, only Twitter.
Right. So Twitter is not meeting somebody? Actually, I withdraw that. On Twitter you followed him, correct?
Yes.
And on Twitter he had never direct messaged you, correct?
Yes, I have direct message.
I didn't ask if you have direct message. My question to you, Ms. Lee, was at the time you baked the cake. Had Mr. Gwa direct messaged you on Twitter? That was the question.
Mr. Ferguson said, and it was asked and answered.
The court said, overruled.
Can you say it again?
You testified on direct that you decided to bake a cake for Mr. Gwa's birthday, correct?
Yes.
And obviously sitting here today you remember his birthday, correct?
Yes.
And you baked that cake, correct?
Yes.
And at the time that you did that, Mr. Gwa had never direct messaged you, correct? Correct, right?
No, direct message me through Twitter.
He direct messaged you through Twitter before you baked the cake. That's your testimony?
Yes.
So you baked this cake, and you gave it to the leader of the Melbourne farm. That was your testimony on direct. Correct?
No, at that time no farm yet.
To the group?
Yeah.
What was the group, by the way?
The supporters group.
Which supporters group?
Melbourne supporters group.
And the supporters group was for the whistleblower movement, correct?
Yes.
So you gave him the birthday cake, right?
Yes.
He took a photo and he sent it to the Miles Gwa according to you, right?
Yes.
And according to you, Mr. Gwa thanked you for baking the cake, correct?
Yes.
And that is how you started interacting with Miles Gwa according to you, right?
Interacting on WhatsApp.
He invited you to a WhatsApp group, correct?
Yes.
And you started talking on the WhatsApp group, right?
Yes.
Ms. Lee, is it fair to say that the group on WhatsApp consisted of 100+ people?
I don't remember.
You don't remember how many people were in that WhatsApp group?
Initially about 20.
You think initially there were only 20 people in the WhatsApp group?
Yeah.
Do you recall any of the other 19?
I don't recall.
So the number 20 on the WhatsApp group became larger, correct?
Yes.
And you were just one of many people on that WhatsApp group, right?
Yes.
There were people on that WhatsApp group that volunteered in different areas, correct?
Yes.
People volunteered to translate, correct?
Yes.
People volunteered to make banners, correct?
Yes.
People volunteered to cook and hold festivals, correct?
I don't remember.
Each person had equal say or equal talk in this group, correct?
Yes.
And it was a group, so you didn't really know who was answering, correct?
They show their name.
Right. But you don't know if Mr. Guo was running his own account or if somebody was running his account for him, correct?
No, that's Miles Guo because it has voice message, it's him.
But when you had anything other than a voice message, you wouldn't know who was running that account. Right? It's all right. We can move forward. There came a point, right, Ms. Lee, that you decided to volunteer as a translator, right?
Yes.
And when you volunteered as a translator, you would translate documents. Is it from Mandarin to English or also from English to Mandarin?
Yes, both.
You did both, correct?
Yes.
And you did both because you're fluent in both languages, correct?
Yes.
And you translated broadcast that Mr. Guo put together, correct?
Yes.
And you testified on direct that you also translated legal documents, correct?
Yes.
What legal documents did you translate?
Related to Miles Guo.
Okay, but what were they?
I don't remember the details.
But you remember them being legal documents, correct?
Yes.
You would agree with me legal documents can be technical, correct?
Yes.
And you were able to translate them, right?
I try my best.
And you read them in one language, and you translate them into another, right?
Yes.
And you obviously had done a good job because you became a leader of the translator group, correct?
The court said, "Do you think you did a good job?"
The witness said, yes.
And then you became a leader of the translator group, correct?
Yes.
And how many people were in your translator group?
Initially only 10.
10 people, right?
Yeah.
So you supervised 10 people doing translations, correct?
Yes.
And then it grew, correct?
Yeah.
And as it grew, you continued to supervise those people, correct?
Yes.
And there came a point, did there not, where you were reimbursed for supervising these people who were translating, correct?
No.
You never got any money for running the group?
From 2021 July, Rule of Law stopped funding all the farms.
I didn't ask you if they were funding all the farms. My question to you is whether you got paid for running the translator group?
Yes.
Okay. How much did you get paid?
10 grand.
10 grand, right? And that's 10 grand a month, not 10 grand a year?
Yes.
So 10 grand a month, 12 months in a year, correct?
Yes.
And you could decide what to do with those 10 grand, right?
Yes.
Nobody told you how you had to spend it, right?
Yes.
You could keep it all yourself, correct?
Yes.
You could distribute it, correct?
Yes.
And to date, nobody has ever asked you for any accounting on that 10 grand that you got for years, correct?
Can you say it again?
Sure. Nobody asked you to send them an itemized bill of how you spent that money, correct?
I send invoice to Rule of Law.
No. No. You sent different bills to Rule of Law. My question to you is on the 10 grand.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, first of all, she testified, and it's been asked and answered now.
The court said, sustained.
Do you recall sitting here today? I withdraw. You got paid 10 grand to be the leader of the translator group, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered, Your Honor.
The court said, sustained.
How many people in 2020 did you supervise?
Hundreds.
You supervised hundreds of people who were translating. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
And could you tell me what is it exactly that you supervised?
So I get task from Miles Guo. I send the task to my group members.
The only person who ever gave you a task to translate is Miles Gov't. That's your testimony?
Mostly from Miles Gov't directly.
Is it fair to say, ma'am, that there were hundreds of other translators in other farms doing exactly the same thing?
Not exactly same, no.
They were translating, correct?
Yes.
Translating from Mandarin to English, correct?
Yes.
And English to Mandarin, correct?
Yes.
Same thing?
No.
How is it different?
We translate more legal document and more important task.
That's your opinion, correct?
No, Miles Gov't told to me.
So Miles Gov't may have told you that, but at the end that's your opinion, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, objection.
The court said, sustained.
Miles Gov't told you that you were the one translating important documents, correct?
Yes.
What important document did you translate?
Many, I don't remember.
Tell me one. I'll move on. Now you also testified. Did you nod on direct that Mr. Gov't was the one who asked you to become a director at Rule of Law Foundation, correct? That was your testimony?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that Mr. Gov't actually just asked you if you would like to be a director on the Rule of Law Foundation? That's what he asked you, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, she should be allowed to answer first.
The court said, please answer.
He said I pick you to be the Rule of Law Foundation director.
So he said he picked you to be Rule of Law Foundation director, and you said yes. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Was he on the Rule of Law Foundation board?
No.
Did he tell you how he had the authority to do any such thing?
No.
There were other directors on the Rule of Law Foundation board, correct?
Yes.
In fact, the government showed you a document, right, with the names of the people including Bill Gov't, correct?
Yes.
Do you know Bill Gov't?
Yes.
Who's Bill Gov't?
He's a journalist in U.S.
And he was a director, right?
Yes.
Somebody named John Morgan was a director, correct?
No.
John Morgan wasn't a director?
Not of Rule of Law.
Who else was a director of Rule of Law Foundation?
Kyle Bass.
What was Kyle Bass' role on the Rule of Law Foundation?
Chairman of Rule of Law Foundation.
Who else was on the Rule of Law Foundation?
I don't remember.
How about Mr. Bannon?
He is Rule of Law Society chairman.
He had nothing to do with Rule of Law Foundation, correct?
Yes.
Who else was on the Rule of Law Foundation directorship? There were 5 of you, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, She asked this and the witness said she doesn't remember.
Ms. Shrofa said, We'll find a document that will refresh her recollection. Sarah Lee Hong was on the board, is that correct?
I don't remember.
How about Mr. Fong, Afienji?
I don't remember.
For how long were you a director of the Rule of Law Foundation?
From beginning to last year.
Do you remember somebody named Victor Serta being on the Rule of Law Foundation?
Yes.
And what was his role?
Director.
He was one of the directors just like you, correct?
Yes.
And as a director of the Rule of Law Foundation you attended board meetings, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Gov't was not at those board meetings, correct?
Yes.
I'm correct, or he was there, which one?
You're correct, not on the meeting.
And there were scheduled board meetings by the Rule of Law Foundation, right?
Yes.
Minutes of those meetings were taken, correct?
Yes.
People took notes and then wrote up formal board meeting notes, correct?
I don't know. I don't take the notes.
Those meeting notes were available to you as a director, correct?
I don't remember.
And as a director, you never asked Rule of Law Foundation for any of their financial paperwork, correct?
Yes.
And, in fact, you had no authority to ask for the Rule of Law Foundation paperwork, correct?
I don't know.
You don't know what authority you had as a director of the Rule of Law Foundation?
I only know I can vote.
And you did vote, right?
Yeah.
Matters were put before you, correct?
Yes.
And you chose how to vote, correct?
I consult with Miles Gov't.
Excuse me.
I consult with Miles Gov't.
You consulted with Miles Gov't before voting on the board?
Yes.
And that was your decision to consult with him?
He said I can ask him.
Exactly. He said you can ask him if you want, correct?
Sometimes he give me direction.
Direction to what?
How to vote.
On what?
On some issues.
Tell us, what issue?
I don't remember.
You do not remember a single issue on which Gov't told you how to vote?
I don't remember.
The Rule of Law Foundation supported people in the Ukraine, correct?
Yes.
Did Mr. Gov't tell you how to vote on that issue?
I don't remember.
The Rule of Law Foundation helped people when they were stranded because they were targeted as anti-CCP, correct?
We rescue all Chinese people.
And you voted on those rescues, correct?
I don't remember.
You voted on distributing PPE during the pandemic, correct?
I don't remember.
There were proposals on whether PPE should be sent to hospitals, correct?
I don't know.
Whether PPE should be donated to people in China, correct?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Whether PPE should be provided to the New York Police Department, correct?
I don't remember.
So sitting here today, you do not remember a single thing that you voted on as a director of the Rule of Law Foundation? I'll move on. Now, one of the functions of the WhatsApp group was to allow people to complain if they had a complaint, correct?
Can you repeat again?
Sure. One of the functions of the WhatsApp group was to allow people to complain if they had a complaint, correct?
No.
So, if you had a concern, you could not raise it in the WhatsApp group?
Yes.
You could raise it, correct?
Yes.
And people raised complaints, right?
Yes.
People complained about you, correct?
Yes.
People complained you were mean, correct?
I don't remember.
You don't remember people who were translating for you complained that you were mean to them about their work product?
I don't remember.
You don't remember people complaining in the WhatsApp group that you were rude to them?
I don't remember.
Do you remember those complaints being raised when you were part of the IBG group?
Sorry. Can you repeat?
Let me show you what we have marked as a defense exhibit. Do you see a photo on your screen, ma'am?
Yes.
And do you recognize the people in that photograph?
Yes.
And who are they?
Gov't and Fei Fei.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, may I move the document and the / photograph into evidence?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection just to relevance.
The court said, overruled. I'm admitting it. Go ahead.
By Ms. Shrofa.
That's Fei Fei, correct?
Yes.
You did not get along with Fei Fei, right? Ms. Shrofa said, I'm sorry. I forgot to pub.
Defendant's Exhibit 60496 received in evidence. By Ms. Shrofa.
That's Fei Fei, and she's one of the supporters, right?
Yes.
And she's also in the IBG group?
What's IBG group?
You don't know what the IBG group is? You don't know what IBG is?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, could she stop with the commentary, please?
The court said, so the witness has said she does not know what the IBG group is. Please continue your questions.
Was she a member of the Iron Blood group?
Yes.
So IBG is the Iron Blood group, right?
We don't call IBG group, just Iron Blood group.
Iron Blood group, right?
Yes.
And she was a member of that, right?
Yes.
And you did not get along with her, correct?
No.
You fought with her, correct?
Sorry.
You and Fei Fei did not get along in the Iron Blood group, correct?
No.
Let me show you what is marked as Defense Exhibit 60497. Do you see that, ma'am?
Yes.
Who is that a photograph of?
Lei and Li.
Who is she?
Cornfield's sister.
Could you keep your voice up for me?
Cornfield's sister.
Her name is also Lian, correct?
Yes.
And you recognize this photo, right?
Yes. Please.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, I move it into evidence.
The court said, it is admitted.
Defendant's Exhibit 60497 received in evidence.
The court said, and we have reached 3 o'clock, so we're going to stop for the day. Remember that you're not permitted to discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Don't permit anyone to discuss the case in your presence, and don't read, watch, or listen to you anything from any source concerning anything about this case. Have a good evening, and see you tomorrow morning ready for you to walk in at 9 a.m.
Continued on next page. Jury not present.
The court said, Ms. Lee, you can step out. Don't discuss the case.
The witness said, okay, thank you. Witness temporarily excused.
The court said, please be seated. Ms. Schroff, how long do you expect your cross-exam to go tomorrow?
Ms. Schroff said, maybe 2 hours. How long was the direct?
The court said, I don't recall.
Ms. Schroff said, me either, Your Honor, but I will try to keep it short. I will try.
The court said, okay. And you have other witnesses lined up for tomorrow?
Mr. Ferguson said, we do, Your Honor.
The court said, anything before we break?
Mr. Ferguson said, just very briefly, Your Honor. I appreciate Your Honor's comments at the sidebar. I just wanted to say one brief thing. I didn't want to leave a misimpression with the court for what I was thinking with that question. I had understood that the problem with the question was there was something loaded with the term worried. And the testimony right before that was Ms. Lee being told they were going to arrest them all. And so I had thought, was told. The problem with the question that's leading is there's no foundation in evidence. And so I had thought there was a foundation of evidence for asking her what she was concerned about was being arrested. But that she had just been told. That was it, Your Honor. And I appreciate the sidebar. And I apologize for any misimpression.
The court said, all right. Have a good evening.
Adjourned to June 7th, 2024 at 9 a.m.